All right, we are back with the Old Moon Podcast, episode 10. We are officially in the double digits, boys. We're amazing.
We made
All
it.
right. Yeah, we did make it.
How did we get here?
Podcasts.
I can't believe it.
Made it to at least 10.
That's right. That's right.
That's weird.
Hey,
how did we get here?
Consistency. Kicking and screaming. I dragged you every week.
It was all kicking and screaming the whole way too.
That's right. I am Blue Squadron, of course, your host, and I'm joined with my co-host as I am every week. I'm actually going to throw it over to Jay Tiltis. Why don't you introduce yourself? You see how I curveball that? Last week you weren't. Jay wasn't ready. Last week Jay wasn't ready.
Title this time. Damn it! I failed. What's up, everybody? I'm Tiltis TV. I shot call for Solace. I stream sometimes on Twitch when I decide that I'm going to have a consistent schedule, and I play Omega Strikers right now because it's a fun game and I want to get good at it. Blue's like, how dare you?
God, bro, what a freak. And Jay?
Hi. My name is Jay-kun. I started playing BDO in 2018. I'm 750 gear score and focus on the endgame PvE in BDO. And welcome to the Old Moon Podcast, episode 10.
Woo! Yeah, we're super excited.
We made it here, but
well, I love Jay leads off with, God, my penis is so big. 700. The most interesting part of Jay's content. He's like, I am 750 gear score. Watch me. All right. So I wanted to touch first. I know Jay, you had actually brought this discussion up initially, but there had been talks at the Black Desert 7th anniversary Q&A about a Necromancer type class being researched for BDO. We've seen many mage archetypes in BDO already, such as like the elemental casters in Witch and Wizard, the arcane casters in the Sage, battle mages like Sorceress and Dark Knight, and now mages that control the weather and the spirits like Wusa and Megu. So we've definitely never seen a class with death magic before. Blood magic we've seen a little bit in Sork, but death magic we've never seen really anything of. What would we really want to be able to see coming out of a Necromancer class? Jay, it was your topic. Why don't you take it first, big man?
Well, naturally, when we think of Necromancer, right, it would be more of a minion-oriented class, right, with undead such as zombies and skeletons. But I think we've seen from the past that BDO and pet-oriented classes have not, have been really notorious for being problematic mechanics-wise. Example, Witch and Wizard's summon damage not being applied or scaled properly, right? So, if I were to think of a way they would do a Necromancer type class, I think they would make it more not minion oriented, but more so focusing on the idea of like death magic. You mentioned Sorceress also dabbles in blood magic, right?
Yes.
I was not really aware
you have
of
like
that.
bloody calamity and stuff where she soaks up like the blood from around her and she gets a bunch of health back and stuff.
Oh, really? Okay. Well, the idea I had was like completely focused on being like that blood mage archetype. And so
it was a new concept, and now I have been
like, aren't you the lore guy? Hang on a second.
I totally thought Sorcerer was all about, like dark magic.
It is dark magic, but there's definitely some blood skills in there. It's tough not to call bloody calamity a blood, like blood magic.
So it's just a name, But in terms of like mechanics wise, I would say the blood mage would focus more heavily on life mechanics. So I'm thinking maybe they don't have a natural resources like mana. They would use their own HP as a resource, but perhaps have an increased HP pool to compensate, And I think going on brand with HP oriented skills, maybe debuffs that prevent or reduce being healed by potions, or like preventing HP on hit or heals from other players, I think another thing that would be very Necromancer type would be curses, right? I think a unique mechanic they could introduce with curses are like debilitating debuffs, such as preventing the use of BSR while having this debuff, or preventing players from getting buffs or dispelling buffs, and maybe curses that prevent maybe grab skills, like you can't use your grab skill. So I think it could also double as a support class, really, right? Blood magic is about life, right? It might not have to always be about taking away life, but maybe giving life, maybe increasing healing received to allies, maybe giving them buffs that gives them HP on hit. And I was thinking maybe as a Necromancer, a cheat death mechanic where you can't go below 1 HP for a certain duration. So that would be my idea of a Necromancer type class that's not minion oriented.
Okay. Yeah, no, honestly, you spend all this time grinding for the infinite mana pot, and Jay wants to see a class that doesn't use any goddamn mana. Tiltus, what do you think?
Do you want me to break it and give cool ideas, or do you want me to say what we're actually going to get?
Where we're going? Oh, God. He's going to lift the veil. All right, yeah. Give us the broken version, and then give us the
So the broken version would definitely be totally pet oriented, 110%. You'd have varying sizes of pets based on whatever skill you were casting. You'd have your little undead minions, the standard skeletons that play around. Similar to, I would imagine, like Nova, where you give your minions orders and they go do it, but as a more permanent minion that's always out playing around. And then you would have a large summon that I think probably could be tied to your 100%, where like maybe you summon a troll skeleton or something, a large creature that now runs around, and you can only summon it when you have your 100% up or something like that. And then the thing that I would really love to see, and this is going to blow your minds, this is immediately what I thought of. I want to see, similar to like, how you get PA sickness. I want to get like an undead sickness where you get this debuff on you for like 20 minutes, and you can just raise a full plat of people.
Like just a curse?
Yeah, well, kind of, but instead, like, so, because I was thinking about it, I was like, well, if you just have like 10 necromancers and they all can raise people, then it defeats the purpose of like killing them. But then I was like, oh, but PA sickness is a thing. So like instead give it like a 10-minute debuff on them where it's like they can't be raised again, but one necromancer could potentially raise like an entire platoon of people back up once they die. I think it would be super sick, and it's something that hasn't existed in the game. I know, I see you, but it's a 10-minute cooldown basically. You wouldn't be able to.
Oh, 10 whole minutes. No shot.
Do you know how cool that would fucking be, though? It'd be so cool.
That would be so cool to see all of Cho Nation just, oh my God, they stood up again. Oh my God, they did it again. Oh my, they have another neck.
I asked you if you wanted it to be broken or not, okay? That would be broken, and it would be so cool.
Don't worry,
really
10 minutes seems balanced.
20 minutes, 30 minutes, I don't care. Let me res people.
2 hour cooldown. No, 8-hour cooldown. You know what? Remove it from the counter right now. There's no cooldown in which case. There's no cooldown in which case that is. Yeah, you wipe the enemy guild. Everyone said you just raise your hands like something out of Game of Thrones, and everybody just stands up around you.
Cool.
Everybody just stands up, and you're like, I just killed all these digital. Like I can't. And then but they're all necromancers. They just keep standing up. It's just like
no. You would get a sickness like PA sickness where that player could not be rezzed again for the duration of that time.
Yeah, when you cast, there's no shot, bro. That would be.
Dude, it'd be so cool.
There's not a chance.
But no, what we're gonna get is something that just has big AOE skills, and it just summons like a skeleton, and it does like a fucking smash attack, and then you summon like a troll and it does like a kick attack, and then like that's it. They don't exist. It's just the animation for the thing. It's like, oh, here's this cool animation. We could potentially give you that, but we're not going to.
The bar is so
low. It is. When I saw Necromancer, I was like, I know what I want. I want Azir. Give me Azir. I'm an Azir. Like, I love Azir in League of Legends. Give me pets that I can play with, and like all my abilities are based on having my pets out. And if I don't have my pets out, I'm dog. Like, give me that. But then there's no shot we actually get that in a form that actually works. So
yeah, I do feel that like pet mechanics in the game, as Jay said, are just they just never get them right. I mean, they say they get them right, and I swear to God, they could put in the next patch, we buffed Awakening Witch pet damage by 450% in PvP, and I shit you not, there would not be a cent more of damage. It would not, like, every time they say that they're gonna buff pet damage, it feels like, Blue, how do the Awakening Witch buffs feel? Oh, it's the same as it was forever ago. Like, it just really does not. They don't know how to fix it, I don't think. And like, so pets have always been something that we've struggled with. I would like something that's like less a pet mechanic and more just like an animate dead feature, not with people necessarily, but like here's a thought to balance Tiltus's idea. Instead of just having the whole guild stand up every 10 minutes,
so cool.
Let's bring that back a second, and you have one person stand up for 15 seconds.
Yeah, that was my
animate. You can animate one person, and they can come back and play the game for 15 seconds, like as a ghost or something.
Yeah.
Before they pass on again.
Would they be like unhittable, like a ghost, like iframe permanent for those 15 seconds?
God, no.
Jay, what are you doing? We're throwing out ideas that are balanced. Developers don't listen to this. And what are you thinking?
Oh, bro, dude, give me a 30-minute res. I want to raise 20 people, bro.
You know?
What?
I'd play it just for the cinematic, bro. Let me do it.
Oh, yeah. So, like, yeah, Fleck, one of the people in my chat actually raises a good idea. Imagine Tiltus's idea where you CTG SOB a base and then everybody just stands up and everyone just stands up again. Like, again, it's like the Game of Thrones guy. They just lift their arms and you're like, oh no,
so
kill the Necromancer.
Can you imagine from a macro perspective how amazing that would be? You're like, all right, everybody take the iframe CTG. All right, we're all there. Get your axes out. They're chopping. Everybody died. Okay, here comes the Necromancer. Boop, everybody's back up again. Keep axing.
Oh my god, you're absolutely right. It would be so much fun to die to Chonation in 27 seconds. That would be actually just so much fun.
Chonation for a minute. Pretend they don't. Pretend them, Digi, and Corrupt don't exist, and it's just the rest of the guilds in the game.
Fine. Then that's fine. Barcode, I'm sure that they would never do anything like that. They would literally immediately turn.
I asked you if you wanted broken. I asked you if you wanted broken or not. Okay, you got broken.
Yeah, no, I actually think that animating. So there's a champion in League that I'm blanking on that can do something very
Renata
similar.
class.
Renata, right?
Yeah, where you can animate.
She can put a thing on you right before you die, or right before you die, and you can't actually die while it's on you. And if you get a kill, you come back. Like permanently.
Yeah, that would be cool.
So,
that would be really sick. Like you force them to get a kill, and then you just see this entire ball just sprinting at you.
That's what it feels like when you have that buff on you in League, because it only lasts for like a second and a half. So like you got to get that kill fast.
But yeah, no, I just don't think that they've really mastered how to do pets in the game. I really don't want to see any more pets. I would rather see like Jay suggested, the curse mechanic sounds awesome, and I think it's something that we've been lacking in BDO for a long time. We've never really had curses, or you put it on someone and they maintain this debuff, or maybe like all of their
debuffing class.
You put like a curse on somebody and all their healing skills now damage their allies or something. You know, like they can't do the. I love Jay is the shy. Whoa! That seems too busted. That's
shy
the
buffs. You
line
suddenly
right
are down 2k HP. You're like, hold up a second.
Look at that.
Who are you people?
Wait a second. But yeah, no, like the curses is a good idea. And then the blood magic, maybe you don't remove their mana bar necessarily entirely, because again, I grinded for the mana potion, and by God, I better be able to use it. But like, yeah, their primary skills costing a lot of health, and then having a lot of health regen on other like return
has
stuff.
that.
No, but Suck Nova has a crappy version. I mean, like,
it
but
does
done
have
correctly.
A crappy version, so I didn't bring it up earlier. But yeah,
done correctly. Suck Nova, but done way more extremely and done correctly. Where like it costs a lot of blood, but if the skill goes off properly, you get way more HP back than you lost. Right? Would be really, really neat. Siphoning, also siphoning HP from allies to buff up your skills or something. You could do that like before a push or something.
If we're going on to the buff and debuff route, it should be able to give like a variant on PA, not nearly as strong, obviously, but give everybody like bone armor for a certain amount of time where you do something different. Give them like, I don't know, knockdown resist or CC resist or something like that goes through the caps or something like that would be interesting.
I hate resistances.
Just something. Yeah, me too. Oh God, I can't stand. I'll complain about resistances another time. But
why would you suggest it?
Because that'd be neat. I'm just fucking thinking of cool things. Like, I would like something like just that doesn't already exist in the game, right? Like, I think the concept of Wusa and Megu are cool, but like they kind of already existed in the game before they came out. like there's variations of them and buried in every other class in the game. So like I want to see something completely different. So like a buffer, debuffer. Actually, just a debuffer would be neat.
You could do something where you could cast like a curse on somebody, whether if it casts on your ally and they dive in and they die in the first, in the next 5 or 6 seconds, they just explode. And deal
like
a bunch of AoE.
Explosion.
Yeah, exactly.
That would be super cool. Plus, I would have a use for all of the cannon fodder that is currently in my guild.
I would just literally shot call from Necromancer and be like, all right, bottom fraggers, go in.
Yeah.
Get on the stick. I don't care if you die.
You think I'm joking? I would like I think that would be cool. But if you cast that same curse on an enemy, like they could explode, deal damage to like their allies or something, something like that. Like if they die, so like I think that would be really cool. Something like that. I don't know. There's a lot that we could do with it. Do you guys feel like the Necromancer class is going to be the next class in the game, or do you think like Jay? Do you think Jay is just tickling us with that tease? You know what I mean? Because he said that it was in development, but like, do you feel we might get Wukong next? Have you guys thought about Wukong?
Oh, from the mobile class?
Don't snore on me.
I heard that was gonna just be exclusive to the.
I don't want any more martial.
The mobile of China's mobile version, because I don't think, if I'm not mistaken, the NA version and the other versions don't have Wukong. It's just the China version.
No, I think all of mobile has Wukong. I thought.
Do they all have it? Oh, really? Okay.
I don't know. None of us play mobile.
True. Yeah, 0% of us play mobile.
People ask me all the time, Blue, do you play BO mobile? I'm like, I spend like 70 hours a week playing this game, and you want me to download it on mobile too? Like, there's actually not a chance. But yeah, I mean, we know that Wukong actually exists within the game. We might get like a variation of it.
I just don't want any more like martial melee classes, to be completely honest. There's a bunch of them in the game.
Really? You don't want it? We just got like Megu, and you're like, God, I hate melee classes.
There's so many melee classes in the game. I don't know. I want to see something different. I don't want to see another like martial melee class that enters the game. I don't want to see a stealth class into the game. I don't want to see witch wizard. I don't want to see sage free skinned. Give me something different. I
would argue that it's less the fact that they're melee, and I want less assassins. As an archetype, I want less flanking assassins. I want more ball classes.
Yeah, I mean we have Mystic and Striker though, so like the martial beat 'em up's kind of already there. So like, what do you do? 2
classes. So we have Wusa, Megu, Meiwa, Musa, Dark Knight, Sork, Kunoichi, Ninja, Awakening Draconia, Lon, Awakening Nova, and Tamer, and I keep going. And that's like, bro, we have so many assassins in the game. Like, I have to list it off for my guild. I'm like, if you're playing this class, you need to get on the flank. They're like, that was like every class in the game. I'm like, I know. They just keep coming out with more. They just keep coming out with more assassins. I would like to see them come out like Jay said. Like, I feel like the Necromancer is a perfect opportunity to give like a unique take on like some of the support abilities or like the curse abilities in the game, like Tiltus alluded to as well. Like, I think that would be super cool. But do you guys think it's going to be the next class that we get in November, December?
I don't think it's going to be the next class.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing as well. Jay, do you think it's going to be the next class that they announced in like November, December?
Well, you guys don't think, so I'll be on the other side. And yes, yeah.
All right, cool kid. Yeah, hipster. Jay, the hipster out here today. I don't know.
I've been listening.
I just want to be different,
I've been listening to Jay for a really long time. I mean, I remember the Calpheon ball from like 5 years ago would be like, I was so hyped up because I would get my popcorn. I'm sitting there with my dog. I'm like reclined back in my couch or whatever, and I'm watching on my big screen. And Jay just stands up on the stage and lies to me for 2 hours. It was awesome.
Dude, I had a friend staying with me a couple of years ago, and I literally stopped everything we were doing, and I was like, turned it on the big screen in the living room. I was like, be quiet, we're watching this. And he was like, bro, I don't even play this game. I was like, I don't care.
Yeah, it's so hype. Yeah, it's just so much fun to watch him lie to me for 2 hours. It's fantastic. But like, I would say that recently he's been much better about not lying to us. But I think that he alluded to when he spoke on it. He's like, oh yeah, we're making a Necromancer class. The dev team's like, what are you doing?
Yeah. Totally in the works right now.
Why would you say it? We
there's
floated. We floated
There's
it
like
out
one
there as
picture of a
brainstorming idea.
skeleton.
Yeah, like
There's like one picture of a skeleton somewhere in the office, and they're like, "Yeah, there's concept art for it already written up." Like, some poor artist is like, "What?"
It's like an alternate skin idea for the Orzeka, and the developer's like, "No."
It's just the concept art for Hex Marie, and they're like, "Wait a minute, we weren't ready yet. Stop."
No. Do you think that Necromancer is going to be male or female?
Male, probably, since we have a lot of female classes compared to...
I don't think that has anything to do with it. I think they continue making as many female classes as they want.
That has never stopped them before.
Aesthetically, I think Necromancer makes more sense to be male. And then if you wanted to, you could do some kind of like they used to do, some kind of like partner class that comes out around the same time that is female. That would make sense, I think, aesthetically. But I don't know what that partner class would be. You know, like how they have Valk and Warrior do something kind of similar to that, where you have a Necromancer, which is male, and then you have a female something that's the opposite side of it. Yeah, I also feel it would be male. They just came out with 2 more female classes, but like Filthy
they don't
said,
give a shit about
it's
that.
never stopped them before.
They said,
know,
"Come here, BDO community."
In fairness, they know who they're selling to. Okay.
Well, yeah, we play
like
we play
they are fully aware.
Game, yeah.
Yeah, like have you seen some of the outfits? The Cabellius is definitely something you would wear to church.
Yeah. The amount of boob physics that exists in this game is unreal.
I was literally looking at the Valkyrie outfits the other day, and the jousting outfit, which is like solid metal, like all the way down. It's literally like her boobs are like bouncing up and down in the middle. And I'm like, I was okay with it. Like, yeah, it doesn't fit like lore accurately, but I was like, okay, yeah, it kind of makes me want to buy the outfit more.
Don't forget the underboob that Valkyrie has too.
Big
they know.
True. Big true.
The Enslar, right?
Yeah, the Enslar outfit. They're like, hey, where heard you guys like titty physics? Here's a underboob for you.
Yeah, exactly. Like we're side, you know, whatever worked. That new Sakura set from the is the Guardian and the DK.
Yeah,
they know.
DK's the worst. DK is they know
DK
every
is the best.
DK player. They're like, I have to sit there and like hunt for DK outfits that don't make me look like a woman of the night every single time. I'm like, oh, here's one that like isn't showing off too much.
I don't know what you mean. The DK outfits look like they're showing just enough. Look good to me. All right, so I feel like we've talked on the Necromancer enough. I want to go into our forum post segment of this podcast because we started that last week. And I want to touch on, of course, we could not do the forum post segment without touching on Choice's forum post about RBF. This is probably the most upvoted. I checked it today. It's definitely the most upvoted post that has ever kind of been posted on the forums.
Oh my god!
Yeah, 10.8K. It's almost at 11. But see, I think a part of that is he's definitely the biggest content creator in the game, right? But like, so like some people are just gonna agree with him for the sake of agreeing with him. But like when it reaches a number like 11K, you have to start considering as a developer, maybe we should start adding monetary value to RBF. That is substantial. So the post suggests adding, I won't go through the whole thing necessarily, but in summation, the post suggests adding a much higher silver value for RBF and like ranking players based on how you, like how many kills you get, how many objectives you take on some sort of multiplier system and giving people money. And then you could, he also proposed you could turn on your loot scroll during RBF and increase the rewards by like 30%. For something like I mean he suggested total earned, let's see, at the top end, rank 1 player 331 mil per RBF, which would be something like 1 billion silver an hour for RBF. And I'm curious what your guys' thoughts and so like, and then you have like the 10th player award is something like 120 mil, which would be something like, I don't know, 360 million silver per hour because RBFs last 20 minutes. Now I have controversial thoughts on this. I want to see what you guys think about adding silver awards in this way to RBF. Do you guys, firstly, do you think that adding more like rewards for PvPing is necessarily a good thing? Like I understand that the developers have been cautious about doing it in the past and for relatively good reason. But like, do you think it's a good thing? And also, is this the correct way to do it? Tiltus, we'll go with you first here.
Let's see. I'm familiarizing myself with this. I do think that the RBF current loot is dog water. It's horrible. And I would really like to see them add a substantial amount of monetary value to it. 1 bill an hour seems a little high for first place.
Yeah.
But I do like this concept of like you've got multipliers in here, you've got percentage of match played, you've got a player count so that you can't abuse it in these like low end, like 10-person RBFs to just abuse and get 1 bill an hour. He definitely put a lot of thought into this. And I think if you're playing an RBF with 60 people and you are the number one player in that, you should be rewarded substantially for your time. 1 bill an hour seems like a little bit much, but I'm, fuck it, send it. If we get 1 bill an hour RBFs, I whatever, dude. I'm not ever going to complain about it because the person that has that number one spot is the person that could be grinding and making more money than that at Hex. So,
oh no, I don't think you can make a bill an hour at Hex anymore.
Oh really? Did they finally decide that was too much?
I don't know if anybody grinds at Hex right now. They changed Sonals and then they nerfed the elites and then Sonals died. Now I don't feel like anybody. I don't know. I feel like is anyone grinding Galphion Elvia right now? I know it's a little off subject, but like I don't feel like anybody's necessarily grinding it.
So
but like,
so where are we going now? Are we going to uppies?
I don't know.
Stop.
No.
I got him.
No.
I got him.
I immediately recoiled. How dare you? I immediately recoiled in disgust.
He almost responded to it like it was normal. For like there was a like syllable that came out of his mouth and he was like, hold up.
No. Never happened. I agree with you. I think 1 billion silver an hour is just a little much. But Jay, what do you think about this?
I do like his idea of making the RBF reward based on performance. That sounds really cool. Whether it should be done in this matter is a different question. I'm not too sure. I don't really participate in RBF very much. But one thing I would like to point out is that I really like his idea of utilizing your loot scroll to improve RBF rewards. And I think the idea of being able to utilize your loot scroll for other aspects of BDO other than for grinding could be a topic in and of itself, right? I'm not sure what else, but I'm sure we could think of things in the future for that.
Well, my immediate thought is life skills.
Yeah, my concern about this is at the start of the post. So I agree with him that the silver reward for RBF should be better, and I actually like the system that he has laid out, but I have a few modifications. My concern here is that he tried to suggest at the start that players cannot progress meaningfully with PvP content from the start of the game to the end game players, and I think that the system that he has laid out does not at all help anyone that isn't already 715 gear score. There's no progression for like the new play. It's not like Tuvala Timmy's going to be able to join RBF and just pull 1 billion silver an hour, even if they're the best player in the game. Put Flannels on or Divios on a Tuvala striker and send him into an uncapped RBF, and you tell me if he can hit top 10. I feel like it would need to be like if they gave him this, maybe tone down the silver a little bit. I think making 600 mil an hour at the maximum end is probably reasonable. 1 billion is definitely too much. The life skillers are an absolute shambles. I mean, you're making more than players are grinding. Like 1 billion silver an hour consistently like that, because you're talking about direct silver injection into the market. Normally, when you're talking about grinding, what players don't understand is that there's a market economy that goes into that. So like, you grind for an hour or two and you get X amount of crescent rings, for example, and you sell those to the market and you there's a return of silver, but there's an exchange of goods there, right? If you do this with RBF, you're basically directly injecting silver into the economy. Yeah, and you're directly injecting silver into the economy, which is going to lead to inflation. So like instead of giving players raw silver, I would like them instead to obtain consumables or things that can be sold on the market for a high amount of money. So for roughly, like 200-300 mil, but like it should be something. There should be an exchange of goods to prevent inflation is one of my concerns. Also, I'm going to do him dirty here. Choice hates capped content. He hates it. But if he wants to achieve the goal that he's got here, you have to introduce at least some capped RBFs to the game so that like their players can actually progress through RBF. If the idea is to let players progress through PvP, you have to let all the players that want to PvP do that. Otherwise, it's just a who's who of hunters like, okay, I'm good. I'm in business. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But like the new players and the players that are 650, 660, 670, even 680 players, they're getting kind of shafted with this system here. So I do think that it definitely needs to be modified. It needs to be brought down a little bit in terms of silver per hour. I think it's a little overinflated. The idea itself is phenomenal. I upvoted it for sure. I just don't agree necessarily with the entire approach. There are a couple practical concerns that I've got. I think he's thought this through really well. He's got a whole FAQ here to kind of prevent people from cheating the system. Like he talks about AFK players and like getting kicked and stuff. Like you said, he talks about like small RBFs being worth a lot less money and scaling that down. Like he's really covered his bases here, and it's a very well thought out post. And like I said, I did upvote it because I do agree wholeheartedly with most of the posts. The problem is that there's a couple of these things that I think if you give players $1 billion silver an hour for PvP, that like that's all they're gonna do. And as much as PvPers really want to just PvP all the time, it does burn you out super hard.
I think this would breathe so much life into RBF though, to where there's not just one running at all times.
Yeah, I agree.
You would have a lot of full ones.
Right.
I think the ideal setup here would be to do like 3 capped, 3 uncapped of Castle Ruins and Valencia City, and then fix Garmoth to where people at least want to go do it, because nobody ever does Garmoth. And then adjust the rewards. I would like to see more loot-based rewards rather than just raw silver to balance out the market. You could give them life skilling stuff so that players that play it can continue to make elixirs that they would use in RBF to,
Correct.
you know, there's all sorts of options here. You can get some raw silver, but a bill raw silver an hour, I think may be a little much. Maybe like a half a bill in raw silver and a half a bill in mats would be acceptable an hour.
That's a little more reasonable. Yeah.
Yeah. That way you're at least still hitting your a bill, you know, you're achieving something that is comparable to playing other aspects of the game, but then you're also you're also boosting life skills, which still, if you look on the market, they're the important ones are still hard to get. So like, you know, I think that's an option. You just have to be careful with it. Anytime you're boosting a system this much, you have to be careful with it. But Choice has done a fantastic job of making sure it's not abusable, that you fine tune the rewards and you're perfect. You're golden. You're good to go.
Yeah. Yeah, I absolutely love that we have one of our better content creators that puts out an idea like this. I mean, it's such a smart post. It's very intelligently done. He's really covered his bases here. There's a couple things, like I said, here and there that I disagree with. But I think overall the community definitely agrees with him that we should definitely see more rewards in RBF. Yes, you have to do it delicately, because every time you introduce something like this to the game, part of the reason the developers are so cautious about giving PvP substantial rewards is because players will exploit it. It's can we exploit it and how? Is probably the biggest reason that they don't want to do that, because you could trade kills back and forth and all the things like that. But again, he's really covered his bases on stuff like that. So like, I do think that this system that he's proposed will work. I just think that it's a little too juiced.
The raw silver is my literal only issue with this. He's even described that you can't trade kills back. You can't win trade and a small person RBF with like your guild or something like that, because if you bring 10 people, then you're not getting any rewards for it. Your multiplier has gone down drastically. So he's done a fantastic job of making sure that this is not abusable. Plus, with RBFs being public, if you ever get to a 10-person RBF, people are coming. Like, whether you want them there or not, they're showing up. I can't tell you back in the day how many times we do like an after war guild RBF and you have like 20 people in there, and then all of a sudden it's like, here's another 40 players that just joined your RBF at 15 minutes. Good luck, everybody else. Like, so
here's a problem here's a problem I'll throw out there. You said that like, oh well, you need 60 players to join the RBF. Let's say that theoretically that Show Nation just wanted to lock down one of the RBFs. They could definitely just trade kills back and forth. I'm not saying that Joe would do that, but let's say this is something you have to consider as a developer. Like one entire guild. I mean, Reforged could fill an RBF if we wanted to. Right,
like some kind of like guild modifier on that, where you kill somebody in your own guild, you get half the points you'd get for killing another player.
Well, that's less fun. But my point
It
is
is
like,
less fun, but it does prevent the guild exploitation
no,
of doing something like that.
because it's still going to be based on maximum total points at the end. So even if you half the amount of points, if the entire RBF is guild members, it's still going to be based on total points. Do you see the problem? So again, it's very difficult, and the developers have been very hesitant to add stuff like this to the game because the PvP. Let's be honest, the PvPers in our community are the most likely, like they're the most sweaty players. These are the players that get really, really sweaty over the game. They get really, really involved over the game. And these are also the players that are most likely to try to exploit it.
Any mappers in chat?
Okay, well, chill with that. That was cacao. That was cacao for sure. That was just poorly handled cacao management, bro. We're past that now. We don't talk about cacao anymore. It's a nightmare. But yeah, I feel like that we definitely need a change to RBF. Whether this is the exact change that we need, I don't know. I'm a little shaky on it. But let's go ahead and move on to our second forum post, which actually comes to us from Blockjump. And you're like, man, a lot of the creators are.
I love this one.
But in forum posts, it's funny because they actually said, rather, you guys have no idea. The creators actually complain about stuff more than anyone else.
Well, they play the game the most.
And so about 3 or 4 weeks ago, the CMs went into our chat. They were like, hey guys, we have this amazing new system. You guys have been asking for a new feedback system, and we made this amazing new system for you to give us feedback. We're like, oh, excellent. What is it? And they're like, you post on the forums, and then we will direct it to the and then we were like, well, that's what everybody else does. And they're like, exactly. We're tired of hearing you. So now we have all of the content creators, and I'll be honest with you, I actually do think that this is a better way because see, now the creators can also use their communities to direct attention to the feedback forums, because like before it was very hard to get people to even use the feedback forums, and it's really the only way that the developers will actually listen to any amount of feedback. And so now you have all of the creators kind of like they make a big post and then they encourage people, hey, like we are encouraging people right now, hey, go look at the forums, go look at the adventure feedback board, take a look at this cool post. This is like something, if we upvote this enough, we might actually get this in the game kind of deals. I think it was actually a good idea, but it was really funny the way they presented it.
The way it happened.
It killed me. But Blockjump's post actually talks about, we're pivoting off of PvP here a little bit. He wants boss gear to be made wearable within the game. So right now, everybody has kind of transitioned into Brassica, Fallen God armor, etc. And so we're all kind of locked in on, yeah, it's cool looking armor and everything. But he's talking about like Dimtree, Rednose, Gaiath, Griffins, Begs, Muskins, Uragons, things like that, be made into like tailorable things that you could wear as like an outfit. Something that you might get as a quest reward for the main story quest, kind of like they did with like the Balanos and Serendia outfits and stuff like that. How do you guys, would you guys actually use this? Jay, go
Yeah,
ahead first.
go ahead, Jake.
Well, I haven't used in the past, but at the same time, like, I mean, I don't think anyone could ever disagree with being able to customize your character to the way you prefer. So, I mean, we are playing Fashion Desert online after all, so pretty much just hard agreement on this post. Like, I don't think there can I don't think you can exploit this. So probably it'll be in the game, you know?
but we're playing Fashion Desert online, and you want to wear a throw rug.
I want to wear my leaf costume.
I don't know. I don't know if you've ever put the Rednose armor on, but it's actually, I don't know. It looks okay if you put it on a very muscly character. It actually looks pretty good. You know, just like I feel like they would wear it. Anyways,
what about? Do you like the Uragon shoes? Do you like how clawy your feet look?
Shoes.
Does that do it for you?
Maybe it allows me to paint my nails easier. So.
Oh God! Stop!
So your talons, you freaks. God. Okay.
Y'all are sick.
Tiltus, what do you think about it?
Get help. I would never use them, but yes, they 100% should be wearable. Outfits in the game. I do like the way that some of the base green armor looks, like the Gernil and Heave and all that kind of stuff. So I was really happy when they added that back to the game. And doing the boss gear just kind of seems like a no-brainer. We all wear Pearl outfits anyways. Like if somebody wants to be unique and wear Rednose while they have their dead gone on, go for it. I don't have a problem with that. you already can't tell what armor people are wearing when you look at them, so you might as well allow us to have more customization. So
Yeah, I mean, I feel like we're actually entering. It's funny because early on in the game, everybody complained about how nasty the boss armor looked, and it was very clear that they made the boss armor look absolutely disgusting so that you would buy Pearl Shop stuff. And now we're like,
my DK's inventory agrees.
and now we've come like full circle, and we're like, we want to wear the rug. You know, like it's
we've come full circle.
Really strange. It's
give me my shag carpet, you ass.
But I actually think that like it would be cool to wear stuff like that because it's like a relic of the past. You know what I mean? You're like, I have this cool thing, but in order to make it cool,
you know?
Yeah, it's vintage. You know, it's like it's very 2016 at
2016.
You know what I mean? Fucking vintage is 2016. But yeah, no, like I feel like the way they should introduce it is don't give it away for like the main story or anything. Actually make them like grindable. So like if people want them, they can go get them, but like they have to do stuff in order to go get them. That way you're like, oh wow, he's actually wearing the Dim Tree costume.
Just attach the field bosses.
Actually,
can you imagine if you attach those to the field bosses?
Okay, yeah, that's actually, why is that even a bad idea? I feel like that's a great idea.
Because field boss, it'll be popular for like the first week, and then you won't see a soul doing the field boss after that.
I feel like it would be a phenomenal idea. I don't know what you guys are even talking about right now. I feel like it would be really solid.
That's another topic I just unlocked in my brain. Somebody write that down for next week.
Yeah. Okay, so I think we all agree. That's just kind of a slam dunk. That's pretty easy to do, probably, overall. And would at least help Blockjump because he's the guy that he really wants.
He wants to wear his Dim Tree.
Yes, he wants to wear his Dim Tree. He dyes his Dim Tree black, and that's how he runs around and does it. Now he can't do it anymore. He's upset. Okay, all right, we're going to move on to our third forum post here. And our third forum post comes to us compliments of Brassica. Who suggests that, or he puts forth the idea that the Central Market has over 1,100 pre-orders for Garmoth's art.
That it does. That it does.
So the question needs to be asked at this point, do we need to make a change? Does there need to be a change made here on the market, or are people just lazy? Tiltus, we'll start with you.
Dude, it's a weird one because like there are certain things in the game that I just think should be uncapped in the marketplace because every player and their mother wants it. So you should reward the players that get it and decide to sell it. Yeah, needs it. Yeah. So like, I don't know, you get into the whole controlled market versus free market kind of conversation with this, in my opinion. But at the very minimum, you should increase Garmoth to probably like double or triple what it currently sits at. And that I say that as a player that refuses to grind because I've grinded in circles enough, and I still am waiting on my Garmoth pre-order. So, you know, punish me for being a lazy shit, and you know, maybe I'll grind a little bit.
Okay. So your suggestion here is to, yes, it needs to be changed. You just need to buff the boss. You just buff the drop rate on the boss.
No, it needs to be changed. You need to double or triple the value of the Garmoth heart on the marketplace, probably.
Oh, you want the price to go up?
Yeah, no, I mean, my legit argument for this is unleash it. Whatever it goes to and sits at, that's what it goes to and sits
Uncap
at.
It? Oh.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Because
okay, right,
it's
chill.
That's what I was saying earlier. Like you're getting into like a weird argument there, where it's like every player needs it, but what's the true value of a Garmoth heart? You know, like it's ridiculously high. Clearly, there's 1,100 orders for him on the market. You know, so
yeah. Jay, what do you think about Garmoth?
Well, you know, the post mentioned making the Garmoth questline repeatable, but I still think that poses the issue of, you know, the time gate, right? It's it's
that thing. I've been chipping away at that. It takes forever.
Yeah. I mean, by the way, if you are a new player, please park an alt at Nuver to get your Nuver skills for it. So that's do it right now.
You will be upset if you don't.
Yeah, my personal idea is to either make Nuver skills postable in the market. So let's say like 10 mil max. So 400 Nuver skills would be 4 bill to buy. Or another idea I had was to make the Garmoth scales exchangeable for Nuver scales. So players can either buy the Garmoth scales to exchange for it, or maybe even grind out the Garmoth scales in Dregan. So it gives more purpose to grind in Dregan to help exchange to war. Basically helping reduce the time gate of the 400 Nuver scales, because that is a very long time gate. And one more idea I had to sort of reduce the amount of Garmoth's heart that players need, because right now you would naturally get two, right? One for your awakening, one for your offhand, and for players like me who have a shy tagged, I need 3 to add it to my soul as well, because you can't tag it. But I was thinking, you know how like the offhand upgrade gives you 150 HP, 100 stamina, 10% special attack? What if they just bake that into the awakening upgrade, and there's no more fiery offhand, it's just a fiery awakening, which also gives those offhand stats, but also the 2 crystal slots, and then the players would only just need 1. And I think that would alleviate, I don't know if that's the right word, but it would definitely make it a lot less stressful to get 2, right? Even for the pressure of also wanting 1, right? So I think that would relieve a lot of Garmoth's Heart to the market for players who already have more than 1. So I don't know if that would fix it, but it's an idea.
So there's like the increase the supply argument. There's an increase increase the silver value,
or reduce the amount needed.
Yeah. And I think that honestly, the fundamental problem here is that like the developers always point to the quest, I'm sure, and they're like, you can just do the quest. The quest is way too gated. It's like you're asking any player to literally do a boss like for 2 straight months. And by the way, the boss is on a specific timer. So God forbid that you can't log in during Nuver. You're doomed. It'll be 4, 5, 6 months before you can get this critical piece of gear.
2 a week.
Yeah. Like this very critical piece of gear, you cannot gate it around very specific time gated content. It just doesn't make any sense that everybody needs 2 of these. You need 2 of them. So like the quest needs to be shifted. Like Jay said, either they need to put the Nuver scales on the market, or they need to just decrease the time gate to a month, limit it at 1 quest per player, so at least everybody can get 1 Garmoth heart. But like at least cut it in half at a minimum. At least cut it in half. And I know they've already cut it. They already cut it down once, didn't they? I could have sworn they already cut it down once.
I think it's always been 400 since because I did it right away.
That's obnoxious,
as well, just for the because you get a title for it as well.
Oh really?
Okay.
Jay's just like, as someone that already has 9 Garmoth cards, I really didn't need one. I just wanted the title. Like, okay, buddy. But yeah, no. So the quest needs to be adjusted for sure. But I actually think that like the price on the marketplace, maybe you don't need to adjust that, because then you're gonna have players trying to run the quest just to get 9 bill, which is really strange. I don't know, but people will do it, and then they'll be like, "Oh crap, I can't get my Garmoth heart now." But it will happen. But I actually think that if you can kind of slay 2 birds with 1 stone here, and they can take a page out of Console's book. In this case, Console can't run Garmoth because it lags their computer out too heavily. So what they do is they hand a guild scroll to guilds every week, and the guilds are able to run Garmoth whenever they want. And they all get together, and it's a guild event, and you have to kill Garmoth together. This helps guilds come together, right? It helps you, like, it's not unfair to the players that don't want to be in a guild, all 5 of them that exist on the server. So like, because they can still get the Garmoth's heart through other means. They can go, through the quest, or go to the actual world boss. But if you gave it to people as a guild boss and encourage people to do guild missions for it, I think that that's just kind of a slam dunk. You're going to increase the supply to the marketplace. Everyone gets more chances at it, because I'll be honest, I miss Garmoth so frequently just because I'm not online, man. I'm a busy person. Like, I can't be online every time that Garmoth or Vel or even Nuver shows up. And it just means that I'm only getting 1 or 2 chances at Garmoth's heart a week. If you do the guild thing, guilds can wrap their own schedule around it, and you'll have massive more chances with massive more people kind of trying to get Garmoth's heart. And so like, I think that the guild scroll is actually an excellent idea. And they could just pull that straight from Console, but there's definitely a lot of different ways they could approach this. They definitely need to fix the quest. I think we can all agree on that. And I think they definitely need to fix something about it, either whether
The
they need to increase
supply
the
at this point, yeah. If you guys don't want to increase the value of it, then increase the supply of it so that at least it sells. Because I had a pre-order up for almost 3 months now, and I haven't got one. So,
Would that Garmoth scroll be like on top of the world boss, or like it would replace the world boss?
on top of
it'd be on top.
On top of it, okay.
Yeah. So you get
yeah,
what,
so
4
you would
Garmoth
just-
spawns a week
You
instead
would
of
just
3.
replace one problem with another if you made it instead of is the biggest problem there. All right, okay, so I think we touched on that enough. I want to move on to one of Tiltus's topics here, and honestly, it kind of pertains to Garmoth's art. Honestly, so if you try to do the quests, you have to do 2 months of Nuver. You're like waking up in the middle of the night. You're trying to get Nuver done. This can contribute a lot to burnout within the game. And Tiltus, I know you wanted to talk about burnout this week. What do you think primarily contributes to burnout for players in BDO? You run a guild, so like, what do you feel like contributes the most to burnout in your players?
Yeah, so Blue, you're gonna agree with me a lot, I think, because leadership is its own burden of burnout. So like players get this nice, like they're gonna burn out because they're gonna get frustrated either grinding Nuver, waking up at 2 a.m. to go kill Nuver. They're gonna tap for stuff and they're not gonna be able to get the taps. They're gonna burn out that way. And then leadership of guilds, especially PvP guilds, there's a burnout aspect where it's like they can enjoy it. I mean, Blue and I love leading guilds. We've done it for years and years and years. We love doing it, but eventually you hit that point where it's like, I would like to be a player again at some point. So I think there's always a fine line in the game of, you know, are you going to invest your heart, soul, blood, sweat, and tears into this game and lack of sleep? Or, you know, do you try to play it casually and try to avoid burnout as much as you can? So right now, for me and my guild, I mean, we came back 6 months ago now, and we decided, hey, you know what? This time, since we've burned out after about a year, every other time that we've come back to the game, this time we're just going to be casual. We're just going to play the game at our own pace, enjoy it for what it is, casual.
Literally
enjoy
did
it.
Siege last week. Casual.
Enjoy it. It was
sorry.
it was a pool. It was I mean, you saw our numbers. It was definitely you know, hey guys, we're gonna do this once and test it and go from there. But sometimes you have to do that because it helps break the monotony of the game a little bit when there's something else to do. So I think one of the best ways to avoid burnout is just content. Like good content that's injected into the game. That's why I'm super excited about Land of the Morning Light coming out, because I'm on my burnout cycle right now where I'm starting to get tired of doing the exact same thing in the game over and over and over again. So I'm really excited about Land of the Morning Light. So I think that's a phenomenal way to avoid burnout. And then they don't have to focus purely on expansions. I think good quality of life changes like Choice's RBF system would be a fantastic way for players to avoid burnout, because eventually you'll want to go, hey, I've grinded for 4 hours today, 5 hours today, 6 hours today, unless you're Jay. You're like, oh, I want to change it up. I don't mind not playing the game, but I want to change it up. The way I change it up is I go do life skills. I go run in circles and do life skills instead of run in circles and kill mobs. So anything that they can inject into the game that's different content that is meaningful besides just running in circles is huge. It's why I'm such a huge advocate for like buffing life skills. Like I want to talk about life skills like every time we're on the podcast because I enjoy doing it. And it's a good way for me to just be like, I want to play the game, but I don't want to grind. So let me do something else. Dungeons were a great thing to add. I feel like they've kind of dwindled off a little bit, but maybe that's just because I haven't been doing them. So
right.
I don't know. What do you guys, Blue? You're like, you're leadership extraordinaire. So
yeah, I mean, like, we'll do me last.
Okay.
I think Tiltus, you and I share a lot of the similar ideas. I think Jay actually has the unique, very cool opinion on this. Jay, what do you feel like contributes to burnout the most as like a normal player that literally contributes nothing to his guild overall? Go ahead.
Oh my god! Oh my! You got hard roasted. I hope you posted after him. I hope you posted after him this week.
I love you, buddy. I'm so sorry. I could not help it.
You know, I think, you know, the cause. I think there's many different reasons and causes. You know, but for BDO specifically, I think a good example is, you know, grinding for something and then, You do your enhancements and they just all fail, and this happens over a prolonged period of time. You know, to I guess to describe the feeling, I think it's that feeling of not going anywhere after you spent so much effort. Is how I would describe the feeling of burnout. You know, if I were to give advice, like I always tell my viewers, like if you're ever feeling burned out, right, you should, or for any MMO for that matter, it doesn't have to be BDO, right, is to kind of tailor your gameplay to like what kind of events are going on. Like for me, I always go really hard whenever there's a drop rate event going on, you know, but if there's not, usually there's a life skill event, a horse training event, or a fishing event, and then those are the times I take to set up the AFK life skills and then focus on other aspects of my life or play other games. And so I think burnout is inevitable for anything in life, but it is something you can and should be managing. So,
yeah, so I have a pretty unique take on burnout. I am leadership for a long time. I've also been a normal guild member. I was in a PVX guild for like 2 years, and then I was in Vertex for a while, and I didn't do much leadership stuff in there. So I know the kind of give and take of your average player, and then I know what contributes to leadership. So I think for the average player, I think the problem with burnout is that people look at the game so one-dimensionally. They feel like they have to be doing the most efficient thing in the entire game, or they're wasting their time. And I feel like a big part of not burning out is just being willing to do different things. So like whether it be life skilling or grinding or PvP or PvE or PvX or whatever, or the dungeon or what have you, part of what has kept me playing the game very, very consistently over the past like 7 years is that, very much like the bedroom for Jay and I, we're willing to do anything. So like we will literally do any content that we need to.
Some sus out there tonight.
We will do any content that we need to try to keep the game engaging. So whether it be life skilling or PvX or PvE or PvP, it really doesn't matter. We kind of just keep playing the game no matter what. When we get tired of one thing, you kind of pivot to another thing. The problem is when you get so one-dimensionally focused on doing one thing over and over again, and you repeatedly fail, or you repeatedly just don't reach your goal, it gets really exhausting. It's super exhausting. So I think for the average player, it's just a willingness to just try new things, which, let's be honest, most people they get into the rhythm and they don't want to do new things, and then they get into a rut. Instead, the rhythm turns into a rut, and then the rut turns into, oh, I'm just not going anywhere eventually, because they're not able to move anywhere. So that's the average player. I think as far as guild like leadership goes, that's a different problem entirely. You have guild leadership who has to spend Lord knows how much time every week. I mean, like, I remember when I ran Dismantled, when I was the GM, I'm not the GM now. Trini has that burden. But like when I ran Dismantled, I remember it was roughly, when we were doing Siege with 3 node wars a week and all that, it was easily probably a 50-hour a week job. To do the siege politics, to make sure the bases are built, recruitment, handling people's absent excuses, handling people's activity, managing the voice chat, handling HR issues. There's all kinds of things that go into managing a guild and managing a community that contribute to burnout. And usually when guilds die in BDO, it's really
the leadership burns out.
It's really just the leadership saying they don't want to do it anymore. Yeah, so like I just feel like that, like there needs to be, in order to stop that from happening, because the leadership has to spend all this time managing the guild and managing the community, that we don't actually get to play the game nearly as much as like an average player. And so that's kind of a big problem. I think that they were headed in the right direction with handing GMs like rewards for like PvP stuff, like the Black Star gear and like the GM gear and stuff like that. But like there needs to be a lot more of those rewards for people that are in guild leadership. Now you got to be careful, because some people run casual guilds and it's not nearly as hard for them to run a casual guild as it is for someone to run a full-blown siege guild, right? Like Roots in show works tremendously harder than a PvX guild player who leads his PvX guild regularly, right? So like there needs to be a trade-off there, but I think the rewards for leadership, they need to be dramatically increased. I'm talking you need to hand these people big boy rewards, like maybe a value pack every month. I know that sounds crazy, but like if you're running a siege guild and your guild is going to siege regularly and actually participating, I think that the leadership, especially the GM particularly, and then probably the advisor, should get that value pack every month, or something like that, something that rewards them for their time, because at a certain point you're like, okay, well, I'm not getting paid for this. And I have a life, you know what I mean? Like I can't pursue this anymore. And that gets really frustrating after a while. So like, I feel like leadership is definitely its own burden within BDO. And I think the trick to leadership is to just have a really active community. Because that makes getting officers that you can delegate stuff to a lot easier. If you don't have an active community, it just makes it so much harder. Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead, Tiltus.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for community, and the biggest thing I would like to see is honestly, probably like give 2 advisor slots per guild, to be completely honest. Like give one additional person the ability to do everything in the guild. Because like for me, I'm the advisor. That's why Epidemic works so well, is because it's a GM that runs everything else. And then I handle all of the Node War stuff week in and week out, because that's kind of our dynamic. What happens is like he'll leave. Like this weekend, he wasn't able to attend Siege. So then everything was on me for 4 days because he was out of town on vacation. So then I'm trying to do Siege. I'm trying to get a node. I'm trying to find allies for Siege. I'm playing around with the base placement. Like you're doing all this stuff. And then you also have the players coming to you going, hey, this happened. Hey, this happened. Hey, I need help with this. Da 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 da. Like it's all this extra stuff that suddenly happens. So like if I could have another person that's on the same level as GM and advisor, that would be a great start. And then also probably like give more staff roles to each guild as well, because my like rule of thumb that I've always used in games is like for every 10 people that you should probably have at least 1 officer to manage those 10 people. So like the same thing, because like officers are irrelevant now. Everybody in Epidemic is an officer. It doesn't matter. But like if you give 10 staff, okay, well now I have 10 staff members to manage the 100 officers that I have in the officers in quotation marks that I have in my guild. So like I would like to see that kind of change too. Maybe make staff member a bit more meaningful of a role as well.
I don't know. I feel like staff member is an amazing role. I feel like they
do you? I just do so much right now that I'm like, a staff member? Who dat?
Bro, well, you get some better staff, dude. Like, let's hire somebody that actually does stuff. You know what I mean?
I will say, let me real quick before we just like dog on like leadership responsibilities and stuff. The changes that they made to payouts with the point system has made my life so much better. You know what I do for payouts now? I literally go, you get 100 points for every node war that you attend, and once you hit a certain point value, you hit that tier of pay, and I walk away from it. I literally hit distribute bonus and I go, I'm good.
Bro, that system is such bullshit. I literally, when I was, I used it for the first time like 2 weeks ago, and I was like, I was offended by how easy that system was. Like, I literally, I remember,
it's great. Oh,
I remember in Dismantled, I spent hours. Literally, you have to meticulously go through spreadsheets, checking war attendance, KDAs, GVG attendance. You're doing all this crazy. Who came to tax card? Like, you're just mind-bending stuff. Absolutely mind-bending. And Trey's like, oh no, it's like super easy. You just hit this button and you just click this. And I was like, yeah. That's not fair. Dude, I suffered.
I
you must
so
suffer
offended
as well.
When you had that first part, like he had me in the first half part.
Yeah, when he said it's bullshit, I was like, that's the best system that's ever been added to the game for leadership.
It was
ever.
It was
so
offending.
good. Like,
it was offending how much easier it was.
God, I'm sure I could still pull up a Google Doc or a Google spreadsheet with members and their attendance for the week from 4 years ago, where we had to track that stuff by hand. You'd sit there after war and manually go through and make sure everybody was on the spreadsheet that died during the Node War.
And then there's always
you had to take your Node War clip or your screenshots of Node War by deaths to make sure that you got everybody, because you would have players
one
that
or two
hit
morons
0
that don't get any kills. You know, I'm so sorry. Those are the very valuable, meaningful players that contribute to the guild.
Yeah, Necromancer is going to make great use of those people. Don't you worry.
But like, so yeah, like I actually just like they made that system so much easier, which tremendously helps guild leadership overall. But like, I like, so we got region this week for the very first time in guild history, which was awesome. But like, so like for example, the guild boat. You get this really cool guild boat called the Galleon.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that.
You get this really cool guild boat called the Galleon, and within seconds of taking the territory, that had already been given away to somebody else. And I was like, honestly, that's okay. To be honest with you, I actually liked that happened. But like, there should be more stuff like that. There should be more really cool stuff that if a guild leadership is able to get into a region or is able to take 3 nodes in a week or 2 nodes in a week, that you should reward the top end leadership of that guild for all of the work that they put in. For example, now Hartel, who's one of our guild leadership, and has worked very hard with us from the start of the guild, now gets to sail around on this badass big fucking galleon of a boat all week. It's just like so cool, right? Like, and so he gets to share in that victory more so than a general member would, right? And I think that that is really cool. And I think that they should add more stuff like that. Give unique things like the outfits that they give for like holding a region. Like if you win multiple node wars in a week, give temporary. If you win like 2 node wars in a week, give temporary outfits to like the staff and like the advisor and the GM, right? Like give them like some really cool. Even if it's not like a value pack or something like monetarily good, give them like a really cool aesthetically pleasing thing. And honestly, the boat's like super OP. That thing is super awesome. But it should be. It should be.
For the amount of work that you have to do, it should be amazing.
The funny thing is he's still making less money than I am per day. It's wild that he's like, I can get my barters done in 3 hours now, Blue. And I'm like, and I can make more money than that in 30 minutes. But
reduce your expectations to 0.
Super cool things like that are, I think, what needs to be changed about guild leadership to help prevent burnout. Because like when a guild dies in BDO, it's just a leadership saying we just don't want to do it anymore. And every time a guild dies in BDO, there's a handful of players, at least a handful of players, 10 to 15 or 20 or 30 or even 40 players that just say, all right, we're done too. You know what I mean? Because they don't want to go through the effort of trying to get into a new community and get into a new guild and meet new people. Like that, it's just too much for them. So they all quit too. So encouraging these guilds to stay active is so critical and trying to keep the whole community as a whole active. Sorry, Tiltus, go ahead.
The reason Epidemic always does well right when we come back and it doesn't take us any ramp up time is because that's the exact situation that we have. Leadership goes, I think I'm done for a while. And then all the members that are our core go, you know what? I could be done for a while too. And then in the 6 months, when everybody's like, I got the itch, we put out a ping, and all of a sudden there's 20 members that came straight back, and you're like, okay, boys, we go again. So, I mean, burnout's a thing. I have players in leadership right now that are slowly burning out as well. That are, hey, I've got to take a break for a little bit. I'm on the cusp of like, hey, I need to just shot call. Like, somebody else handle everything else. Let me just shot call wars. I'll show up and do that. So burnout and leadership is a real thing. And you guys, especially if you're a player, make it easy for your leadership, dude. They try their fucking asses off for you guys every week in and week out. So make sure you guys are like, make their lives easier. Obviously, that being said, I get trolled like 99% of the time. Yeah, I get trolled 99% of the time. I'm doing anything in the game by my guildies. So like, I
don't need any more DMs, bro. Just stop.
Please don't DM me anything,
bro. Trini was out for last week, so I basically had to run the guild. And I woke up and it was like I was having flashbacks to Nam. I would wake up and I had like 30 DMs from like 18 different people that are all just like, hey, Blue, my power is set to go out from the hours of 8 p.m. to 9:30 p.m. So I'm not going to be there for the first hour and a half of Siege, but I'd like to yes up anyway. Like, it's so every little thing.
That was an exact message that he got from somebody because that was way too specific not to be.
Like there was one time in Dismantled where it's one of my top clips. Like people love referencing this, is when we're in the middle of Siege, right? And this guy hits these Tet Beggs gloves. And we're out here getting farmed by APOC, and this dude hits Tet Beggs gloves, and I just hit the G, like it was on stream and everything. I hit G, scrolled down to his name, and just immediately G kicked him. I was like,
I have done that as well. Yep.
Out of here. I was not having it. That kid had bailed on me like 3 times in a row for Siege. Like the day of Siege, an hour before, he's like, Blue, I can't make it because I don't know. I've been in the ER for 6 days. I'm like, well, you didn't think to tell me like 5 days ago. But like, you know, there's always some crazy excuse every week. And this particular week, he was like 20 minutes before siege, like, Blue, I can't make it. My power just went out. And I'm like, of course it did. And I'm like, yeah, okay, whatever, man. Sounds good. And then we're in the middle of siege, and we are in the trenches taking grenades, man. We're getting absolutely Baja blasted by APOC over and over again. But everybody's out there, and we're having fun. And I saw the Ted Beggs gloves, and I just mentally, I just snapped. I was like, that guy is gone. I was not having it.
I've done that. Mandatory node wars and mandatory sieges are a thing. So you know, when you're in the middle of it and you're not hitting caps and this player hasn't shown up for a week and you're like, bye, go find a new guild to hang out in. Sorry, bud.
Yeah, those are gone. Yeah, those are gone. Okay, all right, so let's pivot off Burnout here. I feel like we've talked about this enough here. I don't want to beat a dead horse too much on it. Now I want to pivot over to some content that seems pretty dead, to be honest with you. Overall, no one ever talks about this. This is the actual
dead horse.
Yeah, underwater gathering. This is a concept.
You can do what?
Yeah, I know. So shut up. I like boat content. Okay, I always have to get it in, bro. I have to slide in some sort of ocean.
I made
content.
my stuff. I made on my first account. I made all my shit. So like the frigate, I know about underwater gathering.
Yeah. No, I did. I made a frigate too because I just wanted to have the most badass boat on the whole water at the time, and then I realized this is useless. Like, because when it first came out, the frigate was basically useless. But like, do you guys? The first question I'm going to ask is: we always approach this kind of content. Do you find underwater gathering fun? Take the rewards away. Take everything away. Do you actually find the act of underwater gathering fun? You know what, Jay? Go ahead.
Okay, so
hang on. Can we preface this question? Have you ever underwater gathered?
I have actually. Okay. Yeah, when I first started playing BDO, the first long-term thing that I worked on was actually building a Furious sailboat.
Yeah.
As for whether I had fun, though, you know, I don't think it was directly with underwater gathering that I was having fun with. It was more so the feeling that I was making progress towards a long-term goal, which was fun. So that's how I would describe with the Furious sailboat.
Oh.
That's a long-term goal back then. That was back in 2018, you know?
Yeah. It's when your workers made it. They just didn't hand that shit out for free.
Yeah. Right. Okay, yeah. So is that the only reason you guys underwater gathered? Was for the frigate? Is that
for the boat? Yeah, for the most part.
Okay, all right. And Tiltus, did you like underwater gathering?
The act of it is not bad. It's unique. My biggest complaint with it is the fact that your swimming is tied to a pearl shop item.
Yeah, but they've fixed that. They made swimming faster now. Like you can actually swim faster. There's also Corsair too. So like,
give me a swimming outfit. Let me make a swimming outfit. God damn it.
Here's an idea. Here's an idea. So you don't have to buy the pearl shop item. You can avoid that expense. You just roll all of your critical life skills over to a Corsair. And then you gather on the Corsair. So you spend $100, roll all that over to the Corsair, and then you don't have to buy a shark outfit.
Wow.
Problem solved. I don't know why more people don't do that.
It seems cheaper than buying a shark outfit.
That's crazy.
Yeah, for your main gather.
The math is checking out here. But yeah, no. So I've definitely underwater gathered a lot more than you guys. Because I used to do it I mapped out the whole. Once I figured out this was a thing. For fun, I just mapped out the whole ocean bottom.
It's cool. It's cool. Have you been underwater in some of those caves and tunnels and shit? It's dope.
Yeah. So like if you don't believe me, again, like we talked in a previous episode about how like I also discovered dead tree essence in a similar way because I was making weenie loony elixirs and no one knew where to gather moss tree sap. So I was just running around figuring out and mapping where all the moss trees were. I did the same thing. And then I happened to stumble on dead tree essence. You know what I mean? So I was the first one to discover that. In the same vein, I was like, I'm going to go map the ocean bottom. Why are you going to do that? Because I'm having fun with it.
Why not?
So I would just dive and I would kind of map out like what was where and stuff. And I absolutely loved the idea that I could get very unique and meaningful items. Like lobster at the time was like super critical. And like swimming up on a coral, I'm like, oh, like this one's open. You know what I mean? Because they had like really long cooldowns. So you'd swim up on like one of these big clams. And you're like, oh, cool. And then you gather on it and you're like, oh, I got to proc off my hedgehog. That'd be super cool. I don't know. It was just really satisfying. But and it was really hard to do. A lot of people just kind of left alts that were sitting like underwater in front of the clams and stuff, which made it a little less fun overall. But I really enjoyed underwater gathering. And then they introduced this concept with like, it was really good for a long time. And then they introduced the Oasis event, which was ultimate, like the original Oasis event, not the cheap knockoff that we have currently. Like the original Oasis event basically killed underwater gathering because the Margoria seafood meal was used to create the Balanos meal, and everybody need Balanos meals. And also people used food rotations at the time, and the Margoria seafood meal was critical in those food rotations because there were not nearly as many meals, and trying to get your crit and stuff, and HP was a big valuable resource back then. But anyway, the Oasis event kind of took that away from everybody, and then they changed crown meals to be objectively better than food rotations for a while. And so it kind of killed underwater gathering inadvertently, but then they said that they were going to come out with this cool new thing called the Margoria like deep sea expansion, right? And we got the first one, and that was like the Carracks and stuff, right? We got all the Carracks and all that extra Okia's Eye and like the bartering, all of that system came at once, and they said there was going to be a second patch. And again, this is we go back to Jay standing up there on the stage and literally lying to my face for 2 hours during the Calpheon ball. Like he told us, they promised us multiple times, like, oh, they even gave it a date. They were gonna release it. They were like, this one's gonna release in June, and then the next one's gonna release in like July, August. We're like, oh, sick. And then it just never came. And then they were like, yeah, it just doesn't work. They showed us pictures of like deep sea diving, right? And they showed us like more boats and stuff, like customization, yellow gear for your boats and stuff, and that was all going to be in the second expansion, and then we never got it. It's like, I feel like underwater gathering, maybe you don't give that to us, but underwater gathering could be dramatically improved if you added something like deep sea diving to the game. Would
That's
you
the new
guys
Lifeskill, diving.
Yeah, would you guys do
Hold up. Hold up.
Wait.
Your brain just expanded 3 times on that one. Wait, we talked about climbing.
What?
We talked about climbing and we didn't talk about diving?
What is going on right now?
I like how your train of thought just immediately stopped. Like, wait,
that's actually a good idea, but you gotta make it good. But this man actually just had a good idea. Like a really good idea. Hire him now.
And the higher level your deep sea gathering is, the longer you can stay underwater. You could like craft an outfit.
You can swim
that,
faster.
Like a big outfit that we see every intro.
Diving suit.
Yes, every intro to every Calpheon ball is always just Pearl Abyss, and they're like panning through the ocean. I'm like, boat content, and they're like, there's no boat content. I'm like, oh my god.
You got debated.
Every time they have this deep sea diving mask. Don't tell me you don't have it in the game. I know you have it. They're like, the deep sea diving thing would be really cool. Yeah, and there's something, if you guys ever, of course you've never dove below Okia's Eye before. But there's already areas within the game where if you dive into the center of Okia's Eye, where you would do something like Khan, if you dive into that pool and go under the water, there's actually an area down underneath that's kind of covered by like a tidal pool. But if you look through the tidal pool, it won't let you get through. But if you look through the tidal pool, you can see all these brand new things that you've never seen before, gatherable items down there, and different things, like different types of coral and reefs and stuff that we've never been able to see before in the game, and you very clearly can't really dive all the way down there with the current equipment that we've got. So like, I know that they at least tried to put areas like this into the game, and just never followed through with it. And I would really like to see that. Do you feel like so let's step away from deep sea diving for a minute and go back to the underwater gathering. Do you guys feel like it definitely needs a buff, right? But how do you think it should be buffed? Do you think the rewards should do you think you just give them more lobster, or do you think that give them more deep sea fruit? Personally, you want my personal opinion? I think you just make coral crystal, that little stuff that makes the deep sea elixir, make that drop really regularly from only underwater gathering. That I think that would make it immediately relevant, because that's one of the most critical consumables in the game for late game content. And I think it would be really good. Like it revives underwater gathering, it gets people doing it again, and it's already kind of fun. There's a fairy skill that everybody immediately rerolls, but I actually have that gives you 30-second underwater breathing. So there's
guess
definitely
who
ways
also
to do
has
it.
that?
You have it too?
Yes,
gosh,
dude.
everyone
I
else
told
has
you
that-
I enjoyed it. Like
everyone else
it's
has that
just
dumb little
not
lantern thing.
lucrative, but it's nice. Like I enjoyed deep sea diving. It gave unique content to the game, which is something that
Yeah.
we always talk about wanting. So
Right.
Um,
Yeah, go ahead, Tiltus.
I just buff it, just make it good. Like it's going to be my shtick until life skills become fantastic and we have life skillers on NA again. Is just make life skilling fantastic. Make it good. Make players want to do it. The underwater gathering is some of the most unique content that exists currently in the game. Why is it bad?
I know. It just all it requires just a very small buff.
Uh-huh.
A very small
And the
buff.
thing is like
bam.
there's like all these systems already exist in the game for it. Like the elixir, the seal, was it something seal elixir? The blue
seal
one.
elixirs.
Yeah. Like that already exists. The fairy underwater breathing already exists. The deep sea mask, is supposed to exist. Weren't there flippers in somewhere near Glish that you could get to, or am I misremembering that?
You can get a Naga suit, but I don't know anything about flippers.
Okay, maybe that's what I'm thinking of. But there's like all this stuff that already exists for underwater gathering, and it's just bad.
Right.
Like give it unique drops that PvPers need, and all of a sudden there will be a super high demand for it, and people will go do the content. Like besides running in circles, like I love life skilling. I will take my boat out there once a week, and I will go fucking deep sea diving, and I will gather up all those things to make everything myself for me.
It'd be sick, yeah.
So I love it. It's so cool. I still very vividly remember that little ravine that exists underwater where all the fucking clams spawn when I was gathering glue for my sailboat. Like I still very vividly remember that exact
Everyone
ravine.
knows that spot.
Yeah, like that's a cool experience that players that are veterans of the game that did that content back for the boat, like they know the exact ravine I'm talking about when I bring that up.
Just west of El Nasha Island, or El Naha. I think it's El Naha Island. Yeah.
And then another really cool place that existed that Blue, I'm sure you've probably been to. The end of I can't remember what quest it was. There was you had to go dive real deep down into basically like history of ruins.
Do a trench, right?
Yeah. I think it was a trench. Yeah, it was. Yeah, I think so. It's been so many years.
Are you talking about the one like southeast of
where Port Rat was?
Port Rat was, yeah.
Yeah, that one. It's the end of a quest. Yeah.
I did that.
It was for the end of a quest, and it was one of the coolest quests that I've done because all of a sudden I was like, oh, I've got to go out into the middle of the ocean and dive down, like a minute's worth of swim time down to the bottom of the ocean to finish this quest. And it's like a history of ruin exists down there. It's really cool.
Don't say those words in quick succession around me.
History of ruin, history of ruin, history of ruin.
Stop! I will take my headset off.
Flashbacks.
Somebody, I know I'm having flashbacks. Somebody in chat actually suggested a great idea: deep sea or underwater treasure hunting. Deep sea treasure hunting.
Ooh.
You can find like pirate chests and stuff, or maybe you sink a pirate boat. All those pirate boats that you kill on the water that are basically useless right now, especially the big one, especially like the really, really big one, those are basically useless, right?
Mm-hmm.
Make them like drop loot into the water underneath them, and then you could just dive down and like open up the chests, like that would be super sick.
Don't make it gold key chests or anything like that. Make it something. Don't do that.
Make it good. Yeah. But don't.
They like to throw those keys around in random places in the game, and I'm like, well, hold up. Let's don't give me more of those.
I know. Like I saw like a glowing treasure thing, and they were like, "You got Margoria treasure." I'm like, "Oh my god, 200,000 whole silver." Crazy. So like, yeah, no. I mean, there's a ton of stuff that they could do with underwater gathering to make it super interesting. A little bit more on that vein, Tiltus, you wanted to touch on this this idea of just 1 hour. So we already have 1 hour grind buffs where you're like you can grind solo in like an instance server. Do you, and somebody in your guild had suggested the idea of doing that same thing but for life skilling. So you could life skill for 1 hour unobstructed. Do you feel like this is necessary, or like what do you think of the pros of this? Tiltus, you go first, obviously.
It's funny because like I run a PvP guild, so there's a couple of people in the guild where I'm like, hey, something fun that you can do that will benefit you in PvP is to go do life skills. It really does help you a lot to make your own elixir rotation, believe it or not. And it doesn't require a ton of time to do it. You spend a couple of hours. And so we were on this conversation, and he was complaining about, complaining about burnt spirit ashes, which is really funny because previous podcast, if you watch my VODs of it, it's me just running around grabbing like gathering for burnt spirit ashes.
What is burnt spirit ashes? What is that?
That's what you need to make immortal elixirs.
Oh, I've never actually gathered for
yeah,
that.
when
That's
you
one of the
gather
very few
the
things.
You got to go gather Delosha flowers, and it is a
dude.
abysmal drop
Yeah.
rate. But we were talking about that, and then that's transitioned into like how there are limited quantities of life skilling mats that you can acquire in the overworld. And he was complaining that like sometimes when he's out and about doing stuff, he will just get bombed by PvPers that are just like, look at this person life skilling. I'm
really?
gonna murder you.
No
Yeah,
way.
especially deck target. I'm surprised you don't struggle with this as many decks as you have on you all the time.
Hell
But
no.
like, it's a thing. Like sometimes you'll run across a war target while you're gathering, and you're like, shit. And like, so then you just get murdered on repeat until you server swap, which sucks because some things like truffle mushrooms have abysmal spawn rates. So like, you can swap to a server and there's no truffle mushrooms there, so now you can't gather that thing for the next hour or whatever. So the idea that he had was just like, hey, in order to combat some amount of PvP griefing, which I don't think is super popular. Like
I don't feel like that does.
I gather on
Yeah.
Arsha. It's very rare that somebody just like intentionally comes to like murder you.
Well, then leave the PvP server. Like, what? What?
Well, no, I don't. I've been griefed like twice gathering on Arsha ever. It's very rare that somebody's just like, hey, fuck that guy. But his suggestion was he'd want to get griefed by deck targets, and I was like, okay, that's just server swap. It's not that big a deal. But my flip side of that thought that came out of that was there are rare materials that are very hard to get. Truffle mushrooms being one. We talked about mithril gathering one time in the mithril nodes over in Valencia.
Can't
like
relate. Got a pre-order in the market.
Yeah, there are things that are really hard to get that sometimes you're like, dude, I only have an hour to play. Like, I don't have time to sit here and server hop for 45 minutes to try to find this material that I'm looking for. So like, that's when your like Elvia server would come in, and like it could have its own cooldown that's unique to you for those materials. But it would be nice to be able to just hop like, hey, I need to gather X amount of truffles. Okay, well, let me just hop into an Elvia server real quick, run the truffle mushroom rotation, and then leave. And I know those are going to be there when I hop in, because I haven't hopped in 8 hours or whatever. So I think it exists for grind spots, and it would be a nice quality of life buff, I think, to life skillers to allow them to get some of the more difficult to get gatherables that are just like guaranteed, once a day. It's like, hey, once a day I can go run my truffles and I don't have to worry about them being there or not. So I kind of liked the idea, just simply for the fact of
it is an interesting idea.
I want to get some materials. Like, have you ever gathered truffles outside of Heidel?
Oh yeah, many times. I've gone all over the server.
Brutal. Yeah, it's brutal to gather those things. The mithril was another one that popped into my mind too.
Mithril is way worse.
I hopped to like 6 different servers to try to find mithril, and it was
Mithril's
like
miserable.
You spend an hour just looking for a rotation that's up, and then you find it and you grind it in 5 minutes, and then you spend the next hour looking for another server that has mithril up on it. So
yeah,
it would be nice to just guarantee yourself at least like once a day. It's like, hey, I'm gonna hop in, and my mats are actually gonna be there for me to gather my 200 mithril, whatever it is that you get from a single rotation.
So Jay, what do you think about this? Do you think this is a good idea, or do you think there's just problems with it?
I think it'd be a cool idea to like introduce more like event type things to happen in gathering. Like what about gathering, like there's world bosses for PvE. What if there's like not necessarily a world boss for life skilling, but maybe like a world event? It's like I had this interesting idea where maybe, at a scheduled time, this world rift would open up somewhere in the world.
You talking about on like the Elvia servers? Or
yeah. So
I'm talking about Marnie's Realm, where you get 1 hour of unobstructed you know, whatever. But go ahead. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, yeah. No, yeah. I think yeah, I was more like relating it to it as like, because you know, like the Marty's Realm would be an exclusive thing. So I was getting into that exclusive with like the Rift, basically as like a as an instance, basically. So you would enter the Rift, and inside there would be a very specific type of something to gather based on where the Rift opened up. So let's say if it opened up in Bear, there would be a lot of herbs. If it opened up in Pilgrim's Haven, there would be a bunch of mineable rocks. If it opened up in Akia's Eye, there would be a bunch of underwater things to gather. If it opened up in Odalita, there would be a bunch of Deloshas or something. So I was thinking that could be like a world event that would give people, and because it is instant, like that would be your personal. Like you could just gather there for like, I don't know. How long does it take to take to a world boss? Like 5-10 minutes to kill a world boss, right? Maybe you could gather in there for like 5-10 minutes. So you just get a bunch of loot.
Are actually taking notes right now. They're like, holy shit,
I like that.
Great idea. That's a great idea.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
You have to go to a specific location to gather a specific thing at a generalized time that this rift appears, kind of similar to a rift boss, where it's like, hey, go here, hop in an instance, I can gather this in excess while I'm in here for 5-10 minutes or whatever, and then you hop out.
Yeah. Like, and it,
I like
would
it.
only
Yeah,
happen for
that's cool.
Lifeskillers
Yeah.
and stuff. Yeah, it's a good event. Can't have that all the time though. I think the biggest problem with Tiltus's idea is that a lot of the resources in the game are designed to be exactly that, limited resources. And so like if you add, and the 1 hour thing doesn't really work super well for gathering, because like the things that you need or that you would want that are like competitive are on like such a long cooldown that you would like you're done in 30 seconds. Like you would go into the instance, you would gather all the coral or like the lobster or the mithril, for example, that you need, and then you're done. You know what I mean? Like you can't swap servers. So like I think there's issues with it.
But that's kind of what I was saying.
Interesting
is like,
idea.
It guarantees you one rotation a day. Because there are days like when I was doing the mithril grind for the fucking horse armor and shit, like there was 1 or 2 days where I hopped on, I jumped to like 4 or 5 different servers, and I was like, all right, I'm just not gathering mithril today. I'm done. I'm not gonna because you think about it, like you hop through all your home channels, and then you spend the next half hour hopping to other channels to try to find it. You spent now a half hour looking for a channel with mithril on it. I'm like, bro, I don't want to do this anymore. Like I work a 9-hour day. I get home. I have 4 hours to play video games, not including the time it takes to eat. Like sometimes I just want to hop on, do one quick rotation of whatever life skill it is, and hop out. Yeah. So
yeah. So I mean, it's a great idea. Okay, now I want to move. Now I want to move to something that is just criminally underused content.
Oh, no.
Papu Crinea. This content. This content is dead on arrival. This was so poorly executed. But it has so much potential. Like when the devs introduced this, they were like, you're gonna have to choose a side, who's the otters or the Papu or whatever. And you're gonna have to fight for your side, and like you can earn rewards and stuff. We're like, oh my god, this is amazing. And then they introduced it, and you literally have to turn into like a Papu and go like murder a crab. It's like the most underwhelming, horrendously executed content that probably exists in BDO. And I say that knowing full well that we just talked about underwater gathering and bartering. Like,
well, here's the thing. I've done underwater gathering and bartering. You know what I haven't done in the game?
Papu Crinea.
Exactly.
But okay, so hear me out. All right, so the lore reason I want to talk about this is that we were talking in the previous episode about potential lore things, right? Like pitting the player base against each other, whether it be through regions and stuff. I think that this would be a super fun way. You could make events around it and stuff, which would be super cool. So like where you have to like ally yourself with a side, right? And the PvPers can get involved, because on Arsha servers, you could have Papu fighting Crinea, and every time Papu kills somebody, they get a point for their team, or they get some sort of drop or something. I don't know, something that rewards them. So the PvPers can get involved. The Lifeskillers can get involved because they can pick a side, and then they can get drops while they gather or while they do various life skills and turn them into an NPC, which will give them some sort of reward. And then if their team wins, they get like a reward at the end. Right? It's like the Otters won. Woo! Everybody that chose Otter gets, this extra like 7-day title or something. Something minimal. But like, there's so much potential in the game because you could pit the player base against each other. And like this is like I felt like when it came out, the way they described it was so cool, because again you go, okay, I'm gonna pick the Papu, or I'm gonna pick the otters, and then like there was this thing at the Termian Beach last year. Did you guys do this event? The Termian event, the summer event last year, there was like
with the sand castles.
Yes, and we were like, they were like, all right, you're gonna be able to fight each other on the beach, Papu versus Crinea. I'm like, okay, here we go. And then they turned me into a fucking otter, and I ran down the beach and just spammed the same button over and over again. And again, they're just sucking the fun out of everything. That was fun for all of like 1 or 2 goes, and then we were just done with it. They need to just apply it to the player base as a whole, make it competitive for life skills or PvP. You can do everything. You can basically add it to every aspect of the game. And also the island itself. Okay, so let's take away this whole crap thematic. This is just a wash. This is not working. None of that works anymore. The quest line sucks. The crab sucks. The whole thing sucks. Keep the island the way that it is, but you could make it kind of like an RBF style thing, where people are fighting each other all over the island, allied with one side or another.
AOS map.
Yeah. Well, no, maybe not. Okay, well, chill. Have you been on the island before, bro? There's not a chance, man. But like they could have objective points, like a capture the flag game, right? And if you're on the Papu side, you have to jump through and try to capture the flag, or you have to defend the flag. You know, they could do like a capture the flag thing, and then like the Papus win, the otters win, you get a certain amount of rewards if your team wins, stuff like that. They could make it this super, super fun content. And I feel like that it's just criminally underrated. I don't know. How do you guys feel? I mean, I'm not underrated. It sucks. It was criminally released in the state that it is. It's just literally some of the worst content I have seen them release, and that's saying something. So like, yeah, like I don't say that very often, but like I'm very critical of Papu Crinea. What do you guys think about this content now that I've kind of spoken my piece on it? Jay, why don't you go first?
You know, I think it was a cute piece of content at the time, and I did do the content. It was a journal entry, and so I'm kind of a completionist, so I did finish the entire journal for it, all the quest lines for it. But I feel like, okay, hear me out, I might be overthinking things, and most likely I am. But what if the devs were trying to sort of establish how players would react to factions? Otters versus Papus is something they've been doing for so long, especially, during the summer events you were just talking about, right? But what if Otters and Papus is actually alluding to actual factions in the future, like Calpheon versus Valencia? We would have to side with one of them, and perhaps the mechanics involve, what side you picked. And so that's what I'm thinking they were trying with Pop. Maybe they were trying to gather data. I don't know. This is just like a speculation. And I'm probably overthinking it, but
we have seen them do that kind of stuff before, so you're not.
Well, we want faction stuff though. It's just such bad content. We were all super excited for it. It's just so poor. No one wants to turn into an otter and beat the crap out of a crab, bro. It's buggy. It was miserable. Like, it wasn't because we didn't like the faction aspect of the system. It's because it sucks. Like, if you're going to try to test, if that's the case, if you're going to try to test something, at least make it like good, or introduce it in an event, right? You don't test it by introducing it as content. You introduce it as a potential event, and then the winning side gets like a little Papu hat that they can wear as like a cosmetic thing, or an otter hat, because that's cute. Again, you could keep the idea of this cute finesse. It doesn't have to be like Valencia versus Calpheon, we're going in, but like it could be like super cute, and then like life skillers can compete too. And I think that you would see probably the player base come together, because they would love that kind of a faction thing, right? I mean, God forbid they introduce some sort of system where like you could pick the region that you like the most, and then you're fighting for that region all week. And by fighting, I mean, of course, again, you gather with life skills, or hunting or horse training.
You're contributing in some form.
Everybody contributes in some way to that region, and if you pick the winning region, you get some sort of a reward. We like that. I don't know about you guys. I would. Oh man, how to get me to play the game? Put me in a faction and send me. So I love that stuff. Go ahead, Tiltus.
Yeah, so I've never done the content, so my views on it are very limited, but I know it's bad, so I just refuse to do it because it's bad. I'm one of those players. If the content bad, I'm not doing it. There's no way you can make me do it. But we've talked about factions so many times. Factions are so good, and I really like the idea of there being a faction in the game. I wish it was fun, because I would play the shit out of it. But I think factions are like a nice thing. I mean, the game's already got such heavy PvP elements that already exist where you're already putting your player base against itself. Like factions would be a neat idea. And if, I mean, Papu versus Crinea is like a faction based thing, then they need to elaborate on it to make it more entertaining for players to do. And Blue's idea of having everybody just contribute is a fantastic idea. Did you guys ever play For Honor like way back in the day?
No, I did.
Do you know what it is? You know what it is?
It's like explain it to me.
It is a it's a sword. I don't know how to describe it. It's a sword versus sword type game where the combat's like fairly realistic. And there was 3 factions that existed in the game. You had the Vikings, you had the Eastern faction, you had European faction, and there was no like you're saying, there wasn't like a world versus world where you were directly pitted against each other. You picked a faction when you started playing the game, and then as you did things in the game, you would get points for the faction, and then whoever won at the end of 4 weeks or whatever the time limit was would get, you know, some kind of reward for it. So I love things like that. ESO has factions in it. WoW has factions in it. Guild Wars 2 had factions in it. Like, factions are good. They get players like really heavily invested, and if you make it in such a way to where it's not just restricted to PvE, you can do plenty of other things for it as well. You would probably see an influx of players like doing a bunch of stuff, you know, at random times. It would just be interesting content for sure. Release it for an event, make it a 6-week long event and try it out, and just, you know, slap Papu and Crinea on whatever, you know, whatever thing you're doing, and now all of a sudden, like, you know, I'm life skilling it, you know, for multiple hours every day because I'm trying to get points, you know, or, you know, I'm PvPing on Arsha, you know, make it an Arsha event where it's like, if you're on Arsha, you're part of a faction. Pick it when you log into Arsha for the first time. Boom, here you go. At the end of it, you get whatever kind of rewards. So faction, good. Bring faction. Don't make it super sweaty PvP oriented though. I like Blue's idea. Everybody contributes in their own way.
Right.
But factions good. Factions really help players like latch into the game and want to do something in the game.
Yeah. I think one of the biggest parts about the game is that like the developers make all this amazing lore and just none of us give a flying shit about it, because again, there's no reason for us to invest. But if you made factions a part of it and make like, okay, this is the reason that I'm rallied behind this faction, people would be much more invested in the lore and trying to like be involved in that. And we might actually watch cutscenes. If we were watching, I don't know, you know, the Velian prince beat the crap out of the Valencian soldiers, like that, you know, stuff kind of like that.
Yeah,
go ahead, Jake.
They could even do like cool little like you know, some kind of event outfit for your faction where you wear the outfit, and anytime you have the outfit on, you're contributing to your faction. Like there's all these like super simple ways to do it, but if you tie in a cosmetic to it, a title to it, some kind of like reward that's not necessarily silver, just to get players kind of hype around it, like players will do it, man. The Rock look deep, okay? There's so many players invested into that, okay? Like players will do it. And factions is a totally underutilized thing that exists in BDO lore that we don't ever see. So like I'm definitely on board for factions of some kind, even if it's an event. Would be a really cool event. Put it all over Twitch, put it all over your adverts, you know, from the week of da-da-da to da-da-da, you are, you know, take part in the faction war of BDO, and then you get to do your faction wars that you said we were going to get 2 months or 2 years ago that just fell into the abyss and never came up again. Just revamp the idea a little bit. So
again, that was back in the days when Jay just stood up on the stage and lied to me for 2 hours.
But there was so much hype around it. There was so much hype around it.
Look, sounded so cool.
Yeah.
Like
and everybody was so excited about it.
Yeah.
Like, it's free. It's free content. It's low hanging fruit.
Oh man, it's just so brutal to think about. I mean, but like this is my way of kind of getting server wars, but not getting server wars, right? Like you pit people against each other in a very fun way, but it also gets people invested in the game a lot more heavily, and people play them a lot more actively because of it. Believe it or not.
Yeah, I mean, Jay's gonna go study every bit of lore to make sure that he picks the faction that he most agrees with. Like we already know this. He better release a YouTube video on it so that players like me can go watch said YouTube video and be like, oh, I like this faction more than the other faction. Like, there's like, okay,
Oh,
I'm a
dude.
lore nerd. I'm a lore nerd, not for BDO. Dark Souls, I know everything about the game inside and out. I know the development cycle. I know how they created the game. I know where the game got inspiration from. I have the art books. I have statues. Like, literally, my profile picture on Twitch is me and Artorias' helmet from Dark Souls. Like, I love Dark Souls. It's my favorite game. And one of the best things about that is the lore aspect that's there is very much like BDO lore. You have to go look for it. It is not spoon fed to you. You have to go search for it. You have to go look at, you have to read items. You have to read, random knowledges that you've gotten. But where is our like content creator that's like, hey, I'm the BDO lore guy? Like, if you give players a reason to invest into the lore that's already there, especially with something like factions where we're going to go hard search for that, you're going to get people that creep into it and they're like, hey, yeah, I'm gonna go watch that video because I want to know everything about Calpheon before I sign up for him. So
Yeah,
Blue's chuckling.
Jay,
why are you chuckling?
It's because there are a lot of lore videos out there. But they would be way better. You're right if they introduced this kind of a system. Jay,
If
you were
they
going to
made me
say
invest
something
in
about
it,
the
maybe.
lore.
Sorry,
Jay-
lore guys, that was my bad.
Jay, you were going to say something about the lore earlier. Was there something you wanted to add about?
I was thinking, I was gonna make it like another topic for next week, but I think we can talk a little bit about it here. But I was thinking, when you mentioned like lore and stuff for like factions, I was thinking maybe the story and lore could be more involved with the world of BDO. So let's say they have the story is, they create this narrative where, Calpheon versus Valencia, depending on which faction you pick. Let's say like depending on who wins, that would affect that side of the world. So let's say, Calpheon wins over Valencia. Maybe Valencia is in ruins, and then that would reflect in the world of BDO, and it would change the environment. Could be also with PvE lore too. Maybe let's say Hadum is invading, I don't know, Hydael because, Serenda Elvia. Maybe the world of, the region of Serenda is in ruins because, I don't know, the faction didn't win to defend it, or maybe you did win and then they're fighting it back, but they're also pushing, basically the world of BDO and the mechanics of BDO are changing depending on what players do. So I think that would be an interesting topic to continue talk about it. That could be the event that was Tiltus was talking about.
A big event like that would be so sick. A dynamic world in BDO. I would lose my goddamn mind if they had some kind of dynamic world event like that. Like, WoW did it, but WoW changed the entire game when they did it. So, but it exists. Like, these concepts already kind of exist in other games, and that would be. Can you imagine the player base that would all of a sudden pop up to just hard grief Serendia if you put Hadum versus Serendia? There would be so many players on Hadum's side. They don't even care.
Yeah, I was gonna say, maybe players will go to Hadum's side.
Yeah, exactly.
We'll destroy him.
They don't even care. They're just like, man, it'd be so sick. Can you imagine, like, you show up to Hydael and all of a sudden, like, all of Serendia, except for like the 2 channels of every server, is just permanently Serendia Elvia. Like, you have to just live in this abysmal, circumstances if you're not on, like, a certain channel. Like, I don't know. There's all sorts of cool concepts. They should totally theory craft that. Hint, hint, wink, wink. Take factions and run with it. Make cool world events like Jay suggested. That would be. I'd lose it. I would absolutely lose it if they created some cool world event like that.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I just wanted to know what your guys' thoughts on it were. I didn't realize that's a kind of a hot topic right there. Okay.
Yeah, dude.
All right.
I love faction content. It's sick.
One of the last things, because we only have a few minutes left, one of the last things I kind of wanted to talk about, because I had a lot of things, but I'll skip to potentially the collab event. Now, the last time that Pearl Abyss did a collab, Bugatti, baby. The Bugatti collab
Gang still runs it.
was so legendary. Whether you love the Bugatti outfit or you hate the Bugatti outfit, everyone loved the Bugatti event. I still see people riding around with their horses.
Oh, yeah.
They have 4 horse outfits, and the wagon is all decked out in Bugatti. The wagon is going no faster.
That's awesome.
But it's... And their horse trainer is also riding in a Bugatti set.
Bugatti outfit,
It's an absolute unit, a specimen of evolutionary prowess. But like, do you guys want another collab event like that, or did you feel like the Bugatti event didn't really hit it? Jay, we'll touch on you first.
Probably not. I would I would like if they're gonna do collab events, I would like it to be more game focused. What was that previous event with they had this world boss
Berserk.
or whatever?
Oh, not Berserk.
Was it Berserk? I think
Was
it was the
Berserk a
Berserk.
That
world
was
boss
the very
event?
first one that they did, and I didn't get that outfit.
Yeah.
I'm to this day
know.
mad
I know.
Yeah.
that I did, because it was such a good outfit, and they never offered it
know.
again.
I was
Like-
looking for that outfit. Someone was like posting pictures on it, and I just like, hey, where did you get that? It's from the Berserk event. That's from like ages ago, and I think
Mhm.
it would be more interesting to see those kinds of events where it's more fantasy and game oriented than because when you start bringing in these, like, I don't know, Bugatti, maybe, I don't know if they made a lot of money with Bugatti, but definitely I feel like Bugatti would not fit in the world of
That was an interesting.
dare you.
Interesting
event.
collab.
It
was
was
interesting
an
collab.
perfectly.
collab.
With our medieval times, like arcane thematic. I don't know what you mean. Bugatti
Mhm.
is a company that prides itself on medieval architecture.
Clearly.
I think it would be really cool to have another collab event. We haven't seen one in a couple of years. It's really hype. There's like there's all kinds of stuff that kind of goes into it. So I don't know. I just kind of want to see your guys' thoughts on it. Now, they could also add things to the game like decals during well, they could do this for Papu Crinea or for like the factions.
That was
They
my
could add
immediate
decals.
thought. Yeah.
Yeah, they could add decals for
When
the
we started talking
factions,
about it, it's like,
and then they could also add decals for the collab event. So like,
Yeah. Let me
decals
tag
are-
shit in BDO.
yes. So like, you know how in Overwatch they can like spray surfaces temporarily with like different
Valorant,
logos and things like this. I think that they should add that to BDO, and you could mark your grind spot. You know what I mean? Or something. You know what I mean? Like you could
Come grief me. Come this spot taken.
It
Come
would be
grief me.
sick. It would be super.
I would like to see it
cool.
on the tent. I think the tent, it would fit the
Yeah.
tent really well, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, I would buy the digital icon or I would just buy the Cho Nation icon and just spray it on the rock, and they're like, oh, somebody from Cho's grinding here, and then they would just leave. But like you could give guilds like decals that they could spray on things. Like there's so many applications. You could put it on your outfits, right? There's so many different applications that you could use for this.
Horse gear, boat gear, like
yeah, like, and I would throw money at the game for stuff
So
like that.
I was asking Blue earlier before the podcast what the heck a decal is, and I can't be the only one who didn't know what it was. But if anybody who doesn't know what a decal is, DACAL, it's kind of like how the guild logos would appear on in-game objects such as flags or posters, and that's what a decal is. I just wanted to let people know because you know I didn't know, and maybe other people don't know what the frick a decal was.
It's a sticker. I always have
It's a
thought of it like a sticker. You're sticker slapping
it's
something,
a
you know.
Sticker
You just-
logo, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like they could, like we would just start, like, wouldn't you guys? You guys would spend money on stuff like that, right?
Oh yeah.
Like absolutely. Like this
I mean,
is a slam dunk. I
it's
think
low hanging fruit, but let me tie
it's
it
the
back to
freest
something
money
we've
that they've
already-
ever obtained in their entire lives.
Let me tie it back to something real quick. What if staff members and advisors and guild masters could tag shit with the guild icon randomly?
Yeah, that would be cool too.
Yeah,
That'd be super
there you
sick
go.
too, man.
now,
Like,
now you have a little incentive to be staff member at the very least. Like, hey, I can slap our guild logo wherever I
I'd like
want.
everyone. Honestly, I'd like everyone to be able to do it. Put that shit everywhere, bro.
True.
That'd be super cool. And not even just the guild logos. You could have like, then you could put like creator events and stuff too,
Mhm.
and people could like decal their like choices logo or J-Kun's VTube model on like, you know, different surfaces. That would be super cool though. You know what I
It'd
mean?
be hard
In
for me in
support of your
blue.
creator.
It would just be a bald head or a cue ball. It
Stop
would just
it.
be like
It would just be a reflective, like the
A
sun is
reflective
just beaming.
surface,
I
yeah.
swear, if Jay gave me a decal that was literally, and it's just like this reflective, I look like a moon, I would be so upset with him. I would drive to Korea. I would drive through the Pacific Ocean. You think I wouldn't? You think I wouldn't? But yeah, no, I just feel like decals and stuff. Also emotes. Right? I feel like there's a lot of toxicity in BDO.
Twitch emotes.
Like around the PvP community and stuff. And they already kind of have these emotes in the game. But like if you could emote kind of like League where this big icon appears above your head and it's just like this, you know, this programmed thing that you could buy more off the marketplace, or they could make it, God forbid, rolly boxes for like different emotes and stuff.
No boxes. No boxes.
Yeah,
Please
but they
God.
could make all kinds of different emotes, and instead of like spamming, like even people that were chat banned or chat like that, then they could get really strict about the chat restriction because you could just spam your emotes all the time above your head, and you can turn it off, of course. You'd have to have an option to turn that kind of stuff off, but like emotes and stuff would be really cool. Decals would be really cool. Anything like that that allows us to customize our gameplay experience, I think, which it's really low-hanging fruit. We would spend a lot of money on it. That's exactly what we want to see you monetize, not this other stuff.
But
so
emotes,
like,
do you mean like the like the Black Spirit and the Papu and the Otter emotes?
Yeah,
like in
so we
Yes.
kind of have emotes, but
Kind of like
instead
that.
it'd be like a league emote where it pops up over your
Oh,
head.
like it pops up above.
Yeah,
the-
yeah,
Oh.
it
like,
just appears
if you
above your
kill
head.
somebody, you know, if you're grinding, you kill somebody
You
that
can
try to
emote
flag
on
up
them.
on you. Yeah, you emote on them. You know,
Hit him with the hit him with the question mark. Just
question mark.
bang,
yeah.
giant
Yeah.
question mark above your head. Oh,
So I will say, so I want
Merchant
to
Ring emote or something.
I want to bring
for-
2 points up real quick. Omega Strikers just came out. Omega Strikers already has had 2 streamer events where you get streamer emotes, and then
Okay.
also they made all of the emotes in the game like based around Twitch icons. So there's like the Pog face in there with characters from the game. Super, like go look at it and be like, okay, yes, this exactly, and then make it BDO related. Done. Easiest emote thing you've ever done in your life. Like
on God,
so
I'm
easy.
gonna hit you with the developer's counter argument. All right, so just prepare yourselves, brace.
Negative. Or reject the reality.
But my immersion,
We're way past that.
bro. If
You
we
can turn it off. You can
Bugatti,
turn it
we got
off. You
Bugatti.
can-
We're talking about
you-
immersion.
Yeah, and you can
shut,
turn
shut,
it
shut,
off.
shut, the Bugatti said again. It fits perfectly. How dare you insult Jay's intelligence that way?
But still, if you're an immersive player, there's always the ability to turn it off.
Yeah.
If you don't want to see it, it's not there.
Right. Like and yeah, again, like they could add the Pog face. They could add like a Black Spirit Pog face.
Yeah,
or
exactly.
something.
Low hanging fruit.
It could be okay. Maybe not the black. That would give me nightmare fuel. But like, what about who's that? Oh God, I always forget his name.
Make
Who's
it Bartali. Bartali doing the Pog face.
Yeah, who's the super good? Who's the super good voice actor that the character that we have? Lando Pog.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Lando Pog. Like or and stuff like that. That would be super cool. Really gentle stuff. I think it would decrease the overall toxicity of the game. I think that people would have a lot of fun with it. They make dollars off stuff like they make big dollars, and it's stuff that like you don't need, but like it's just fun to have. You know what I mean?
Purely cosmetic.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Absolutely slam dunk.
And be able to turn it off or make it disabled during Siege on Siege servers and Node War servers. Like that, I don't want to see 100 Pog faces when somebody kills my base. I would blow a gasket.
But see, that's the beauty of it. That would be so funny.
Imagine losing Siege and every other person there has the blue emote and they kill your fort and there's 400 blue emotes on your dead fort.
I know what you're talking about. I would have so much fun with that. There would be no Twitch highlights that would come straight out of that and go to Pistanity. That would never happen. That would never happen.
Repercussions of that would be, oh my.
Dang, that would be funny though. Holy moly.
Oh, it'd be great in hindsight, but during the moment, man, I'm going nuclear.
Oh my gosh, that would be so funny. It's better than them spamming their current chat macros, like their current chat macros are www.subwaycareers.com/North America.
That is a good chat macro. You get out of here right now.
Stop suggesting I get a job at Subway, bro. Like
that we cannot do anymore. By the way, it is against terms of service to spam websites on BDO, so do not do that. But
wait, really?
It was hilarious. Yeah,
that's against.
You remember
TLS?
You remember the time corruption was in your guild for Node War outside of Serendia?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I had 3 people get chat restricted after that war for spamming Subway.
Don't blame that on corruption specifically. If you're gonna point the finger at someone, point the finger at someone that doesn't actually do anything. GM wisdom. I'm sure it was probably GM wisdom that he's behind the scenes all the time.
It is against TOS to spam websites. Bottom line, you cannot do it in the game.
I didn't know that.
Do it, but it is really funny. So
I did not know
don't
that
you
at all.
diss the Subway spam. It was great. That's why we don't do it anymore.
I did
We
not.
don't want to get chat restricted.
Yeah, I'll have to actually look into that.
And honestly, if anybody reports that, it's going to pick up the www or the HTTPS by default or the .com, and it's going to be like, hey, you set a website, you're done for 24 hours. So
you're gone.
Yeah, it may not have even been corruption. It could have just been a Autobot rollout, you know. So,
but
good spam though. More spam. Emote spam.
More,
I'd hate it, and I would love it.
Spam. What's your solution to decreasing toxicity? More spam.
Spam. Fun spam though.
Okay. All right. So we
If
are
I
out. Go ahead.
If I get a
finish it
Bartali
up.
Pog face on my fort when we lose, I'm gonna be mad, but it is gonna be great content to clip later. So
Igor.
It would be so good. It would be
he's
so
Bartali. I know he's got daughters and a wife, but it's just who I'm talking about when I say Bartali. It's the old
Like-
dude and outside
like
of Velia.
A surprise Elezra face.
Surprise, Elizabeth.
Instead of surprising you, it's her again. No
Mad-
way.
Mad
like
Jordine
every-
face.
Jordan.
Yeah, the Mad Jardine face. That would be so funny. That would be so good. Okay, so we unfortunately do have to wrap it up for this week. So closing comments. Jay, we'll start with you. Give us your closing comments and your outro real quick.
Oh, closing comments. Good
He's
discussion.
He's never ready. I throw it down. He's
you
just
never
never
get me
ready.
That one was fast.
Hi, my name is J-Kun. I do a lot of endgame PvE content, party content, such as Olin's Valley and the dungeon. If you have any questions about gearing or just the game in general, you can find me over at twitch.tv/JkunVT.
Right on.
One breath.
I did it. Yay.
All right. He ran out of stamina halfway through the.
I ran a stamina.
All right, Tiltus, go ahead.
Hey everybody, I'm Tiltus TV. I'm the shot caller for Solace. I'm currently streaming basically Node Wars. I do want to learn every class in the game. I'm also doing a full playthrough of the story of BDO. So if you've never watched it and you're wondering what in the heck the lore is about, like you're not a nerd like Jay over here, then please come. Yeah, please come please come watch on Saturdays when I play the story. It's actually pretty entertaining. And definitely like give us some more like just quality of life little things in the game. I think emotes, decals is a great idea. It's so low hanging fruit that would be so much fun. And just continue. My thing for the next however long it's going to take is buff life skills. Make all of them good. Give them some unique aspect so that players can do it. I want to see life skillers on NA server again, please. But yeah, you guys can follow me on twitch.tv/TiltusTV. I'm also on Twitter.
Okay.
So.
Yeah. Okay. All right. And I am, of course, Blue Squadron. You can find me at twitch.tv/Blue Squadron. Working on getting rid of that underscore. Send help. But this podcast, I hope you guys really enjoy it. Every week is uploaded to Spotify and Apple Podcasts. The entire point of this podcast is to essentially create content that you don't necessarily have to be sitting at your computer. If you, like, let's say you want to be at work, but you're thinking about BDO all day, this is the podcast for you. You know, maybe you're on your way to work in the morning, things like that. So you can find us on YouTube. The podcast is always posted up to YouTube, and all the forum posts that we talk about every week are in the link to the comments description, so that if you agree or you strongly agree with one of the posts that we talk about, please, we encourage you to visit us on YouTube, click on the forum link, and upvote that link, because that's the best way we can get feedback through to the developers. We do all kinds of things on this channel. This week has been an absolute banger. Saturday we had Siege and we capped the region, which was really cool. Sunday we had an IRL cooking Serendia meal stream, which was an absolute clown fiesta of fun. Monday is Fun Day Monday, and we review VODs and teach people how to get better at large scale PvP. And of course, we have Tuesdays, the Old Moon podcast. All right, that is going to go ahead and be that's going to be a wrap for episode 10 of the Old Moon podcast. Thank you to everyone who listened from home. We love you.